For lesson 5, we'll be talking about absolute value, and this is our final lesson of the number system unit. Let's start by quickly reviewing integers and opposites to kind of get us started with this new definition today. So we'll plot the numbers -8 and 8 on the number line. Here's 8, here's -8. Now what we want to do in number 2 is describe the position of the 2 points using distance and direction. So for distance, I'm going to count up. It looks like 8 spaces. And if I go the other way, eight spaces. All right, so they're both are 8 away from 0. But what's different here? To get to 8, I have to go to the right. And to get to -8, I have to go to the left. So I'm going to say, but in opposite directions. That leads us to absolute value. So absolute value is just the distance of a number from 0. It does not tell you the direction. Okay, another name for absolute value is called the magnitude, and you will see this word today. All right, so the distance from 0, how far from 0. Basically, what ends up happening is whatever you do, the number looks positive. So for example, if I want to say -3, but I want to say how far from 0, I put these lines around it, and then it equals 3, because -3 is 3 away from 0. Another example here, if we do our example from above, -8 is 8 away from 0. +8 is also 8 away from 0. Okay, so it just takes away that sign information and it makes it look positive. But really, you don't know if it's positive or negative. Okay, so let's try some examples here for exercise 2. We can use the number line if we need to, but we probably won't need to. So absolute value of 5 is just 5, because 5 is 5 away from 0. Absolute value of -9 is 9, because it's 9 away from 0. We don't care about the direction, left, right, positive, negative. Okay, 1.5. Well, 1.5 would be right here. That's 1.5 away from 0. So literally just the number, but without a sign. So -0.75 would be somewhere, oops, that's positive, would be somewhere over here. And that means it's 75/100ths away from 0. Same thing here. This looks crazy, but we just want to say, how far is it from 0? Well, exactly what that number is without a sign. Okay, so lastly, -6.03 is just 6.03. Whatever the number is its distance from 0. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. In exercise 3, we're looking at how to use and interpret absolute value in real life. All right, so we want to take absolute value and use it to describe something in real life. So for number 1, Tamika owes her mom $23.50. So I know that owes is a negative word, so I'm not even going to read the rest. I'm just going to write Tamika, and I'm going to say -$23.50. And Nor owes her mom $8.90. And again, owes is a negative word. Which amount has the greatest magnitude? And I know that I definitely just saw that word magnitude. Remember, magnitude was just another word for absolute value. Another word for distance from 0. All right? So which one of these numbers is farther, greater distance from 0? Well, that's going to be Tamika, right? This is a negative number. It's a smaller number, but its magnitude, its distance from 0 is greater. All right, number 2. Danny is thinking of a number that has an absolute value of 7.5. What could the number be? Well, if the absolute value is 7.5, that means that whatever was in this box had to be 7.5 away from 0. So it could be 7.5, right? Or it could be negative 7.5. So when we have an absolute value, we don't actually know if we started with the positive or the negative version of that number. For number 3, which has a greater magnitude, 97 feet above sea level or 110 feet below sea level? So that's positive 97 or negative 110 because it says below. And the question is asking greater magnitude or greater absolute value, not which one is bigger or smaller, but which one is farther away from 0. And that's actually going to be the negative 110. So even though it's technically a smaller integer, it has a greater magnitude or a greater distance from 0. So it's our answer here. So moving on. Just to make this distinction again, opposites are the same distance from 0, but in opposite directions, okay? Absolute value only tells us about distance. So the distance from 0. It does not tell us any directions. So opposites could be negative, but absolute value can never be a negative number. It's always going to look positive because it has no sign information. All right, so exercise 4 here. Let's compare the numbers, okay? We're going to use our inequality symbols. So we've got absolute value of negative 5 compared to absolute value of negative 6. Well, that's 5 away from 0 and 6 away from 0. So I can say 5 is less than 6, meaning absolute value of negative 5 is less than the absolute value of negative 6, which makes sense. Okay, negative 3.5, its absolute value compared to the absolute value of 3.5. Well, negative 3.5 is 3.5 away from 0, and so is 3.5. So that's actually equal. All right, I'm going to have you guys try number 3. For number 4, negative 5 compared to negative 6. All right, well, actually, negative 6 is going to be smaller because it's a little bit farther away from 0 in the negative direction. So that's actually, if you look at 1 and 4, they actually have a different answer. When you put the absolute value around them, it changes the answer. All right? Okay, so number 5, if we want to compare 2 and 5/6 to negative 2.1, well, 2 and 5/6, that's how far from 0. Negative 2.1 would just be 2.1, no sign. Which one's bigger? Well, they both start with 2, and then I have to compare 5/6 and 0.1. 0.1 would be the same as saying 1/10, right? I can tell right away 5/6 is definitely bigger than 1/10. So I'm going to say greater than. Okay, and then I'll let you guys do number 6. And we're going to skip over exercise 5. I do have it written here if you'd like to pause the video and take a look at it and copy it down. But we aren't going to talk through it, so if you have any questions, you can just let me know. And finally, our last part here is our reflection question. How are distance and direction used to describe a rational number?